Well, hello, and welcome to our first episode of Aftershock Online, where we show you how to grow your business one click at a time. We interview professionals that have had success in various different verticals. And today I'm excited to have our first guest, Mr. Johnny Alo. Johnny is the new area manager with Security National Mortgage. Johnny is a mortgage vet with over 20 years experience. He has a track record of proven success both as an originator and as a manager leading organizations. At home, he supports his wife Jill for over 20 years and has 3 amazing kids who keep them busy through their various sports and volunteering. Johnny's also been a friend of mine for a long time. I am excited to have him on the show. Welcome, Johnny.
Thanks, Josh. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
so,
great segment.
Today, we're going to have some fun. We're going to talk about digital marketing, things that you and I have had a few discussions on over the last 5 years.
Maybe just a few.
To give a little background, Johnny and I met 15 years ago or so at a business conference and randomly got paired up in a carpool together. And that's kind of how we started to get to know each other. And as you got into the mortgage business again about 5 years ago, we started to strategize on how we could do some lead generation for the mortgage world, but also for real estate. Your wife is a realtor.
Absolutely.
And we've had a lot of fun. It's been pretty cool.
It's kind of interesting. I think our journey in life, you talked about being in the carpool. I think of that first ride was, I don't know if you remember, but it was kind of like pole position. There was like 8 of us cars and people were just like swerving around. And that's kind of what our business, has done too.
Yeah.
Just kind of driving through different lanes and swerving and, taking each opportunity as it comes. So I've been appreciative of your friendship, your relationship with me, and I look forward to continue to grow this.
Yeah, likewise. Well, today I think we're going to give some really good nuggets to people because,
absolutely. I agree.
Again, we've done so much together. But I'm going to ask a few questions today. First, so people can get to know you.
Sure.
Why did you get into the mortgage business?
Ooh, that's a good one. Let's see. I was bartending at the time. A friend that I got to know was in the mortgage business, and he would frequently come in, and we just have open discussions like we are now. Like, hey, what do you do? What do you like about it? And he just talked about some of the freedoms that it offered, the income potential, things like that. And I was working nights, weekends, holidays. Time I was newly married, or getting married at that time. Matter of fact. And no, I was married. And I just foresaw life having to be a little bit different of a journey than working nights, weekends, having kids and wanting to be a part of their life and things like that. So I had inquired and I'm like, hey, is this something I could do during the day? I couldn't jeopardize my income. And he's like, yeah, matter of fact, that's when I meet most of my clients. And various nights when you're not working, maybe you can do some marketing and things like that. So I was like, yeah, let's check it out. So interesting story. My interview is I went in and was supposed to meet with the owner and the manager of the company. I'm greeted nicely by the receptionist and she's like, hey, have a seat. So, like any lobby, there's a certain number of chairs. There's, the coffee table, magazines on there. And I was like, oh, Rob Report. I remember Rob Report back in the day.
Of course.
Used to read those all the time and Dream Build and things like that. So I picked it up and I'm looking through it, and the guy sitting next to me, a guy probably at that time, maybe mid 40s, early 50s, and maybe he was younger, and I just slaughtered it. So if he hears this, he's gonna come back. Hey, why'd you call me out so old? I wasn't that old. But anyways, so we got to talking, chatting, and the lady came up and she's like, hey, the manager will be up right in just a minute. And the guy stood up and goes, you know what? Don't even worry about it. Just give him the hire paperwork. He's hired. It was the actual owner sitting down talking with the receptionist. Waiting for me to come in, or just doing his time of talking with people. And so that's how I got in the business. It was just random, matter of fact. And he was like, the conversation went great, and he was like, you know what, you're hired. No interview process or anything.
Wow, that's not the usual way you get hired for things.
No, not at all.
It's amazing. It's kind of one of those it was meant to be type of things.
Very much so.
And I mean, I knew you kind of earlier in your career too.
Yeah.
And I saw you fast track. I mean, what were some of the keys for you fast tracking in an industry that's, extremely competitive?
I think attitude, belief, surrounding yourself with the right people. That can mean the world probably in any business, not just in the mortgage industry or, even in relationships. My wife and I, we try to surround ourselves with people who have great marriages, because that's what we want, great family life. So we try to do that. We're very protective of who we surround ourselves with.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And, you go back to the attitude. And one of the things I've always admired about you is when you and I have discussions, it's never on, I don't think this can be done. It's like, no, how can we be done? Let's think through this. That's one of the things I hear you say a lot. Let's think through this. And we do. A lot of times we'll go back and forth and come up with different solutions and things. But that's something that, paid off early in your career and has continued to pay off for you.
Yeah, it's a journey.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about fast forwarding to just the last few years back in the mortgage industry. How has digital marketing changed it? How have you utilized that to benefit your business?
I think we're seeing a huge radical change with digital marketing being the center focus. If you read any of the industry leading reports out there, they're always talking about, customers and leads and retention and all that is the key to your success. In the past, we've always been, in the mortgage world, we've always been reliant on our relationships with realtors, builders, financial planners, CPAs, sphere of influence. I think we're starting to see a shift where the mortgage market or mortgage industry is now looking at this saying, hey, how can I get to the consumer faster before the client or before the agents do, or the referral partners, where I can actually, I guess, qualify them, gauge interest and bring them back to referral partners. And in return, obviously, we're looking to build a true relationship, because a true relationship is kind of what you and I have.
Right.
I refer agents and clients to you. You refer agents and clients to me. That's what a true partnership is. And so I think today, with the way that the digital marketing world is changing everything, it's shaking it up radically. We're seeing opportunities for people like in the mortgage industry or insurance companies or financial planners. They're able to get to that client, assess their needs, and use that as a referral partner with their groups.
That makes a lot of sense, and I've seen it happen a lot to where you're using value. You're using digital marketing that's generating leads of people that are interested, qualified, whether it's a first-time home buyer, whether it's somebody who's buying for the second time, and then you're saying, hey, who do I have a good relationship with? And you're basically partnering with them and saying, hey, I'd like you to reach out to these people, whether it's a realtor, maybe it's a new home builder. And so you've utilized digital marketing to kind of leverage those relationships and make sure you're adding more value.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, so everything changes, it evolves, right? So, mortgage industry, we used to do a lot of co-marketing, and there's still a lot of co-marketing. Co-marketing is me and a realtor as a partner say, hey, you know what, let's co-invest into this venture. Let's see what we can do to get client acquisition, right? And so sometimes, that dollar amount is a lot lower than what they can get if we bring them a qualified client. And I'm obviously not going into dollar amounts for a reason, but if we bring a client, just on a realtor side, if I bring a client, average home sale price, $250,000, their commission is 3% average, right?
Yeah.
They're going to make $7,500 on that transaction. So that's the value proposition. Obviously, any mortgage company, we all can close loans. That's not a differentiator for any of us. We all have access to primarily the same products. Rates are somewhat comparable depending on the companies, but really at the end of the day is who is coming in and talking to the agents about, hey, what is your lender or what is your referral partner doing to help you grow your business? Yeah. So that's where digital marketing is coming in, and we're using the tools and everything you bring to us to be able to engage and do that to help us grow our business.
That's awesome. And just to hit on another point, because I saw the team that you ran when you were helping me out with my loan for our home. And I saw how dialed in and streamlined things were. And that's important too. Correct me if I'm wrong, but real estate agents, they want support, but they also want to know that the loan that they're trying to get funded is going to go through. And that's kind of a big piece of it too. So those are things that you've done real well on the management side. Tell me just a little bit about, on the management side, what you've done to make sure that your people are in the game and performing like they should.
I think daily kickoffs are huge. Motivation stuff is very big. I know that's one of the things that we'll talk about later, like different things that we want to, input into our ears and our brains, so that way it affects us on a daily event, so we can go out there and serve others. So I think it's just empowering others. It's empowering the loan officers, letting them know, like, they get so comfortable once they hit a certain level that they forget the things it took in the beginning to be successful. And so they get caught in sometimes the minutia of, just doing the loans, right? And sitting at their desk and not reaching out and not asking for referrals. So some of the things that we've done is built like support systems around them. My previous company, and again, I just moved to a new company last week. So, some of these things are going to be evolving, and I'm excited about that opportunity. But previous company, we built full marketing teams out. You're talking everything from flyers to open house kits to, with big blown up 20-foot gorillas and,
cool.
anything and everything that gets them recognized out there. That was kind of our goal as a branch, because again, loan officers are independent. They can choose where they want to go work, right? So at the end of the day is, what are we as managers, as organizations doing to make them feel comfortable, help them grow their business? And I think it is some of those small things, the support, helping them with their social media. That's why we worked with you on some of that stuff.
Right.
We help them automate closing gifts that go out and asking for, social media recommendations and, giving us, 5 stars, for the service and things like that. Because again, your whole social presence, means a lot more in today's digital age than it used to, 3, 4, 5 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. And, one last thing that I witnessed, since we had a lot of meetings over there when we were working together at your previous company, it seemed like you had an open door policy. Anytime, there was many times a loan officer would knock on the door, we'd be chatting about marketing, and come on in, and you take the couple minutes to answer questions and make sure you're supporting them, and that's huge. There's many times that you start to elevate in your career, and you start to shut your door a little bit. And it seems like that was kind of one of your key components, and a lot of people had a deeper relationship with you, and I think that's just a cool sign of leadership.
You think about it. I mean, I call them aha moments. And that's what happens all the time. You're talking to someone, you're just dialoguing back and forth, and all of a sudden this big grandeur of an idea comes up, right? So I think that's the big point of behind having an open door, is being open to have those conversations anytime, making them feel that I'm not unapproachable. I'm here for them, those things like that. How many times did I call you at 7:40 in the morning saying, "Hey, Josh, I got this idea. What do you think about?"
Right.
It's like when I stop calling, you're like, "Hey, I miss our 7:30, 7:40 chat talks."
What did I do wrong?
Exactly. So I think that's what it is being open. I learn so much more from them than they probably learned from me. And, and I just look at it as the whole grocery shop theory is, you go into a grocery store, you don't buy everything. You just pick certain things off the shelf. So I'm a sponge. I just take it all in. I want to know my why, I want to know my how, and I want to, know how to execute. But at the end of the day, I'm just information gathering all the time.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, because the more you know, you don't have to choose everything, but the more you know, the better decisions you can make on things, right? But if you're limited to how much knowledge you have, you can only choose based on that knowledge base, and that's a huge piece of it. So, so before we get into some other fun stuff, I want to dive into something that a lot of our listeners will probably be interested in. What are some of the tools? Because again, and just to talk about your and I relationship, we have looked at so many tools, and you must have sent me 100 things, whether it's a new CRM, whether it's a new text system or slide broadcast or whatever, and you have that hunger for knowledge, and you're always looking for different things. So open-ended question. One, what are the sources you use to look for new tools, and what are some of the tools that have been successful for you?
So just by the way, Josh, everyone that I recommend, that's the next and best, greatest thing, right? I'm like ADD and everything with this stuff. So, but I think the biggest and best thing that you could probably do is join some of the well-known groups out there, people who are doing what you want to do in the space that you're in. So for me, there's a lot of Facebook groups out there, where they have mastermind groups if you're a part of their product line. And you'll see these mega agents from other areas, right? And if you just listen into some of the key things that they talk about, obviously don't take the first one you hear and run with it, because you're going to be blowing a lot of money, but you just look and see what people are saying. And then you see another person who's contributing and talking about it and having success with it. So I think one new product that we started using, and I don't know if I should use any names. Would that be helpful?
Yeah, it'd be helpful.
Okay. In the real estate market, Ava. One of the new human-driven text campaigns. We used 2 or 3 other ones before. I think we waited quite a while to jump on Ava. And Ava by far has surpassed any of the other ones. It is it's not just those canned responses. It's not just, them looking at a script and reading off it. They're very human interactive. I mean, I showed you a couple of them where the person asked, hey, I'm interested in an XYZ property and I want to know if it's still available. If you're really a human, let me know.
Yeah.
And it responded back saying, yes, I am really a human. And yes, this property is still available, and they just took the conversation. The objection handles are completely different because they don't just get the objection and say, okay, we'll get back to you, or let us know when we can help you another time. They actually push through the objection and are making, some big impact. So I'd say that's one huge one for, lead automation follow-up. And again, depending on the CRMs they're using, all that can be dialed in. You've helped with that tremendously where, some of our agents, they don't touch their leads at all. They're just waiting for, Ava to do the low-hanging fruit and say, here you go.
Yes.
And it's still paying off more than they ever expected.
Absolutely. No, that's a good one. In fact, you mentioned we had talked to them a while back. It was November. It was right before Thanksgiving. You had brought them to my attention, and you had talked to one of their owners over there. And then I got on the phone with them and asked them a bunch of questions. And at the time, it did make sense based on some of the things we were doing. But man, I agree. It's been a good switch.
It's been fantastic.
So yeah, that's a great tool. So I'm going to ask this, and it kind of goes back to some of the things we've talked about. But how have you differentiated yourself and had success in a very saturated industry? And let's just say in the last 3 years, because you have all of these fast mortgage, rocket mortgage, and all these different things that are trying to interrupt the market.
Correct.
And I know from my experience working with you, there was a lot of questions. I can't imagine just turning over to an automated system, because I own a business, so it's just a little different. What are the things that you've done to really differentiate yourself and to be successful still in this industry?
Sure. I think, the rocket mortgages, the digital, aspect of mortgages itself isn't going to go away. It probably will over time even be more fine-tuned. But I think people still want to deal with people.
Agreed. Yeah.
And there are certain questions or certain things or, it's like an Olympic race. If you're running a 400-meter hurdle race, right? If you're a professional, you know which step you're taking first.
Yeah.
You know which plant foot you're taking. You know how far you need to lift up that leg. And the next time when you come down, which one you're coming down on, they have it dialed in, right? So I think of our industry is that we're a 400-meter Olympic race, not even just a 400-meter race. It's Olympic-style race. And there are people's lives who are complicated, and they've had situations or issues or hurdles or whatever you want to call it, and they need someone who's willing to run that race with them. And I think that's what a lot of us in this industry is. If the client only cares about rates and fees and stuff like that, they can go to, and they've got, 800 FICOs, W-2, salary, no issues at all. They're just a clean borrower. They're going to be a great candidate for those digital marketing platforms out there in terms of mortgage products.
Right.
If they have some things or they just want a better experience, that they're not just a number, that we really care about their financial future, that this is the largest financial investment they're making, that's when we come in. That's how we differentiate ourselves, is we take our time through the application process, through the whole process itself. We keep them updated. When I was in some of the big banks, it was horror stories. You'd hear, at that time, this was 2009, so that we were doing tons of volume, but it would literally take, 180, 240 days, sometimes a year to get a loan done.
Wow.
And all we tell them is, look, don't worry about it. You're okay. We're going to protect your interest rate, and we'll get your loan closed. It's just you're just in this little race. We'll get to you. Yeah. So it's a different world. It's a different aspect. And so I think that's the way we differentiate ourselves. Is it's a 100% service oriented relational type of loan process with them.
Awesome. Cool. All right, so now I'm going to get some fun stuff because I know what a student you are of just learning different things. And so I want to ask you, give me a couple of books that you would recommend to either a loan officer out there or even a business owner that is already in their career but trying to take it to the next level. And then, tell me about a couple of podcasts that you really enjoy.
All right, I'll go with I'll go with one book
Okay.
because I know you love books, and I'll go with 3 podcasts.
Okay. Perfect.
So one book is How I Raised Myself from Failure to Success
Love it.
by Frank Beckger. By far, probably the most influential book I've ever read out of the hundreds and hundreds of books I've read. So
Wow. Agreed.
that is by far the best one. Podcasts. Let's see. Ryan Stewman, Hardcore Closer. You want something with attitude. You want something that, tells you, whatever limitations you put on your mind are wrong, and that you just need to break through it, and just make sure that there's appropriate audience around, because there is some censorship that
Colorful language.
some colorful language, but definitely spot on in regards to the sales industry. Okay. For the mortgage industry, mortgage marketing animals, I think Carl White does a great job. They're pretty small segments because obviously he's selling his coaching, but they're typically anywhere from 25 to 35 hour max, if he's trying to give some real content. But I think those ones are, phenomenal. The thing I like about Carl White is he coaches a balanced life. He coaches a 4-day work week, where you have your weekends, your nights to your family, use automation. So they coach a full process, of how to grow your business. And then the last one is Darren Hardy's podcast, which I know you listen to.
Yeah, absolutely.
I listen to. Those ones are anywhere from 4 minutes to 7 minutes. But the funny thing is, if in those 4 to 7 minutes, if you really sat down and listened to it,
Yeah.
and then took the time to digest it afterwards, in that 4 to 7 minutes is probably about an hour of information. It really is. He just gives you the thin down, no fluff, direct message, and I really enjoy it. But no matter what's out there, because again, there's so many podcasts, so many books.
Not a great.
We only have 24 hours in a day, so I would say, while all those are motivating and great, and we need that to be constantly in our mind, I call it, the drive time,
Yep.
to have that during drive time, we still need to take action on it.
Yep.
None of those things are going to do us any good unless we have action behind it. So
That makes great sense. And, I agree with the book. I've read that and I've listened to those podcasts. Darren Daly, the one cool thing I love about it is it is very shortened down, but you have to be present. Like, you've got to take the time to listen. I was listening in my car and I still do, but I found myself drifting off on what my day was like or what my next meeting was like. So I've tried to do it when I'm sitting there and paying attention, and I've gotten a ton more out of it that way. To circle back real quick on how I raised myself from failure to success, just give me one tip that you got out of that book that was kind of an aha for you.
time blocking.
Time blocking. Oh, I love it.
Simple.
Yeah.
Time blocking. You've got to, just put it on your calendar. There's no interruption to it, and again, that's just the one part. And then I start thinking of all the other podcasts or trainings that I've gone through, everything else. And there's things that build from time blocking. But if I was just to dumb it down and make it real simple, it's time blocking. And most of that has to do around with client acquisition, going after agents in my industry, builders, clients, things like that. You have to time block, a couple of those segments.
Awesome. Well, so that moves us right into the last segment, which is the 3 takeaways. And the 3 takeaways, I would say first would be time blocking, which you mentioned. So if you'll just expand on what you're doing with your time blocking, or just give maybe a couple of tips on that.
So you changed what I was going to talk about here, because you said you're going to give me the 3 I get to pick.
I'll give you 2 more. I won't put the rest in your mouth.
Okay.
But I think this is great.
All right, so time blocking. One of the guys, it was a cool story. We had Rookie of the Year, Josh Berger from my previous company, brand new industry, brand new to the area, came in and just blew it up, And so I had him go through his day of time blocking, and it just coincides with what I'm talking about. He was so dialed in, like 9 to 10, he was making new agent calls, right? From 10 to 11, he was following up on, previous day's activities that he wrote out for him. From 11 to 12, he took lunch. He didn't start answering his emails or anything until after he came back from lunch. So again, time blocking is going to be different for everyone because everyone's industry is a little bit differently. But what I can say is the one thing you have is a non-negotiable is your client or referral partner acquisition time block.
Yeah.
So that has to be on your calendar. It almost has to be, you know, untouchable.
Non-negotiable.
It is a non-negotiable. You can't just say, I'll get to that later. So if that was one thing I would give to anyone, it would be that.
Awesome. Well, somehow this 30 minutes has gone really quick, but
Wow.
if you'll wrap up with the last two, I'd
Okay.
love to hear them.
So I'll combine two, belief and faith. Have belief in yourself. Have faith that it's going to work. Don't listen to the naysayers. You know, go after it. And last one we talked about earlier is action. You know, there's nothing you can do that will make you more successful than action. I've seen the people who were not the smartest, didn't know all the answers, but because they're willing to fail faster than anyone else, they became more successful than anyone else. So
Oh.
action, 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 go kill it.
Those are great. Well, as we wrap up, I mean, do you have anything that you'd like to ask of our audience? Security National Mortgage is a great company. So, I mean, obviously, if you're looking for a lender and, you know, a loan, that's great. But any other asks you have of the audience?
No, I think, one thing that is becoming more predominant today than it has been in the past is, you know, there are a lot of highly successful people out there and they're self-employed. So sometimes getting financing is a little bit more difficult because of their benefits that they have that they're able to write off on tax returns. So there are bank statement loans out there. You know, there's some great products out there that are helping people get into homes that maybe not had before. And I would say that that's one of the niches that is a focus of ours, you know, during 2018.
Awesome. So if you're self-employed and, you know, you're ramping up your business or you've been in business for a little while and maybe not everything adds up on the P&L like it should, you guys have some products that can help them out.
Yeah, 1 year, 2 year, if your deposits are going in and we can track the money in terms of, you know, how much you're actually making, we can use that as a supplement to, you know, documenting income through the IRS. So a big benefit. I mean, that's a great program for them.
Awesome. Well, thank you, my friend, for being on the show today. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, thanks for the invite.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for tuning in, guys, to Aftershock Online. We appreciate you guys taking the time, and we look forward to seeing you here in a couple weeks.